Okay, this is actually the step 2 in the preparation process here. I just didn't want to make any of these videos way too long. That Glenn always complains they're too long. Anyway, you could just go back to video 1 to see what we've done up to this point, but we're at the point, I've fixed the cracks, and now I've got to get the cosmetic part. Now there's a lot of ways to do this. If you're in business to make money, what you usually do, you go get a trowel, just like the custom car shows, and you trowel on a big bunch of Bondo. You go have a cup of coffee, you come back, you block sand it in, all fine and dandy, especially if you have a car. But on a motorcycle, this is high-tech stuff now. We want to do this. I did this for Glenn's fairings, and when he had this little accident with the Ducati, and we repaired it without Bondo. So we're going to try to do this step without Bondo at all. The trick is I'll take some 220 paper. It doesn't have to be any special grit. It could be, for right now, it could be 400 or whatever. It's not the grit that matters. It's that I'm using a block. The block is going to pick up all the high spots. And if I do this on camera in real time, not with camera cuts and all these fake things like Coke commercials and whatever. Anytime you do this kind of work, you just kind of get used to using a sanding block whenever possible. Now, Glenn, if you do happen to watch this, this is just exactly what we did on the Ducati. And if I show this, this is a wonderful trick. There's no chance Bondo would ever be as good as this. Now, I get it almost flat. Oh, yeah, it could be maybe a little bit. In fact, I ought to be cute. Shouldn't be too cute. But now the reason we use Brodak CA and not bought at the local hobby shop, because Brodak has a very high turnover. He's one of the biggest distributors. And what happens is that this material has a shelf life. It should be kept in a refrigerator, not a freezer. That prolongs the shelf life. Now, we're almost there. I don't want to say we're there, but we're almost there. Of course, the plastic is coming through. That's a given. I'm taking the thick now, not the thin. A lot of times you got to clean the tip. In this case, it doesn't really matter. And if you watch this, it's not a camera trick like a Photoshop thing. I'm putting this on liberally. Gonna let it sit for a minute. Trowel it out. I say trowel it out maybe a 1/4 of an inch past the area. And keep in mind, for some of these collector bikes and there's certain things, I don't know about this bike. I don't know anything about BIMOTAs, to be honest. But I know some of these parts are not hard to find. They're impossible to find. And so when we could salvage one like this, now I just let that sit 20 seconds or so. Clean paper towel. Don't stop. Doesn't matter which direction you're going, just spread it around. What that's going to do, it's going to leave, and you just watch how this works. And you're probably saying, well, where did you learn this? On the internet? No, not really. It was on my airplane videos from, I'll bet you 20 years ago. The airplane videos go back to 87, so they had to be, I don't know. Must mean I'm very old. Okay, so just for now, I could, if we were not shooting video, I would just let this sit. The sitting of it is fine, but just to speed it up, because I don't want the video, and I don't want to have camera cuts. See, the camera cuts, every time I see a camera cut, I think, oh, yeah, sure, how did he do that? Oh, you think he switched parts or something? I don't know. I guess I'm a skeptical person. Again, don't let the towel sit in any given direction. The CA itself is much stronger than this plastic will ever be. So you would hope, think, pray that when this is all done and it's done properly, what the end result will be is we'll have a material that where there would be Bondo, which has no strength at all. Anybody ever does Bondo work, you know that. Or you ever look at an old Corvette with all the spider cracks on it. This way, a little more expensive, a lot more labor intensive, but in the end, you've got a much better guarantee that somewhere down the road, this is not going to break. Now, you may have to do this step 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 times. Doesn't really, again, it doesn't really matter. If you're not getting paid by the hour, you're not getting paid by the job. If you're, whatever, you know, if you just want to have that collector bike part repaired, restored, saved, salvaged, whatever your name is, whatever the word is, well, this is a way to do it. Takes a little longer. Now, just to show, halfway through this, you can see what we've done. We have the valley pretty much filled, but we're going to block sand this down until this whole thing is smooth, in which case we'll wind up with the part that it'll have a skin on it. Now, what I've done, and let me just show, this always, because we're dry sanding at this point, I'll turn that, so now I'm using that edge, I'll turn that, and a little wood block like this doesn't matter. You can buy these in body shops. They're plastic, they're fiberglass. They make 100 different shapes, but it's a block. And what it does, it imparts a flat shape onto the part. There's an awful lot of ways to do body work, and boy, I have watched enough videos to know there's probably 100 good ways to do it, and this is the way that I've used for whatever the however you want to define what it is. The parts I've saved, or the trophies, the awards we've won over the years, the concourse awards. This is definitely not the cheapest or easiest way to do this, but I think in the end it's the best. And I'm going to go look at Glenn's Ducati next time I'm up there and see where all the work we did on his Ducati, and we did a lot of work on it, bike. If it's cracked, not cracked, that'll be the test. And I watch some of the California, the car shows, I call them California shows, where they're doing custom cars and they got a bunch of guys with 5-gallon buckets of Bondo. They cover the whole car with Bondo and sand it, and they're all covered in Bondo and everything. And I'm thinking, yeah, I guess that's the only way you could do a job as big as that. I don't know, but... And I'm not critiquing anybody else's work, but I know this way works for me. Now, if you look at this point, we're down to having a little baby ditch, a little baby ditch. If you have patience, and of course we do, we're like real ninjas, not those fake Kawasaki ninjas. You gotta sit under a waterfall to do this kind of stuff. I'm only getting it in the ditch. All I care about is the ditch right now. Again, I'll spread it out just to make the sanding go a little easier, although I never worry about getting a little extra sanding in. In a job like this, there's going to be hundreds of hours of sanding by the time buffing and everything, so to get it right in the beginning is a very important thing. But this CA method is, again, I'm gonna just, let's show it up close before we do this. We've got most of it in the ditch. Sometimes you have to do this step 8, 10 times. Doesn't really matter. If you're looking to, you know, do one of those Bondo job things, yeah, that's, you know, that has merit in terms of you can do it cheaply and quickly. But this way, if it's your bike and there's only one left on the planet, and Luciano has all the parts and whatever, I don't know, however you define it. Another trick, and this is a John Pothia taught me this trick, rub it with a rubber glove. It's even more sensitive than your hands. You find little mistakes. Okay, that's kind of kicked off. Take the sandpaper, rotate it 90 degrees. But when I think of a bike like this, I think Vlad told me when a bike like this is new, it's about 46,000 bucks. That, and I know some of the Ferrari stuff I've worked on where it wasn't a question of saving money, it's a question of you can't even get the part anymore. We did some nice I think they were engine covers. They were the covers that go behind the engine, recarboned them, and did some really nice work years ago. I'm not sure if that's on the video or if that was before we started putting stuff on YouTube. Now I'm just being real patient, real cautious. This is a part you're gonna see. It's not underneath the bike where you won't see it. Even if it was, I'd do it. And it doesn't matter, we're down into the raw plastic. It's gonna have to be reprimed, that's for sure. And I'm a little concerned about this in one way. Vlad has this, the replacement paint that he paid a lot of money for, the BIMOTA paint, and on the side of the can it says Honda, so I don't know about that. Or maybe BIMOTA used Honda paint, who the hell knows? Anyway, I'm probably gonna have to do this one more time, and I know this might get a little boring to look at, but it's a way that I've found that you can do some things that a lot of people will not. Glenn didn't think it was possible. He was blown away. And he's a pretty, I don't know. What is Glenn anyway? Sharp guy? I'm not sure. And Luciano's easy to impress. He worked in a body shop. He did everything the old-fashioned way with hand labor, more sandpaper, more Bondo. I think we got this. I don't think we're going to even need another layer of that on. But even if you needed it, that's the whole point. If you needed 10 layers, it's no problem. I'll radius that edge off just a little bit. I think we're good to go here. That is one little spot here. And to be honest, even on my Kawasaki, I did similar things. I always think, you know, we're in the middle of the winter here. The hours we spend doing this, you're going to enjoy basically for the rest of your life, which could be a variable amount for all of us. Now, here's the final thing. This is really getting down to nitty gritty. We got just one little spot there, and I know you're bored to death looking at this, but this is the way to do it. Trust me. And I don't know if you look at the video how many minutes we spent here, but we're going to have about 20 of these on the whole motorcycle, so this will probably consume a couple of days just doing this kind of prep. But in the end, what you have, so much better than doing it the other way. It's not even funny. And it's this initial prep that's like building a foundation for a house, if you've ever built a house. And I haven't built a house from scratch. I've restored 3 from the ground up. The floors, the sheetrock, the lath. And you can really appreciate that if the house is built on a solid foundation, wow. If a house is... Everybody knows this house that we're living in is one of the ones needed a lot of love and care, believe me. Anyway, we're going to get this. We're not doing house renovations here. This may be our last trip, last time through. What's nice about this, the dry time is almost 0. I'll move this over. We're getting down to nitty gritty. Most important thing though is not to do this work before you do the carbon fiber reinforcement on the back. If you get the horse ahead of the cart here, it's really a mess. You make yourself a mess that you can't believe. And it's almost guaranteed it'll crack as soon as you start the engine. Now in this case, this bike has an FZR engine. This is a Yamaha powered BIMOTA. But a twin cylinder, whether it's a Ducati or I don't know what other motors, they used Suzuki motors at one time. But the 4 is going to vibrate a little less. Oh, I am so happy with this. Now, I'm happy I got this on video to share with you. Sanding block is your best friend when you're doing this. If you do 99% of it with a sanding block, you'll be so far ahead of the game. Okay, now I basically did this repair in real time just to show that I hope is one of many repairs that will not fail in service. That's an aircraft quality repair.